Have you ever found yourself looking at something you bought and thinking, this was too good to be true? Something so ordinary that it almost seemed like fate brought it into your hands, only to realize that it might be connected to something darker, something hidden beneath the surface? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. I bought my first home in a quiet town, a seemingly perfect house, only to uncover secrets that would forever haunt me. And it all started with a simple yard sale. A few years ago, I made one of the most important decisions of my life. I bought my first house. It was a quiet, unassuming 2-story colonial in a small town. Nothing extravagant, but just what I needed. Affordable, with a good-sized yard and full of potential. After years of renting apartments and never really feeling at home, I finally had a space to call my own. The previous owner, a retired professor named Alan Foster, had lived there for decades before moving south to be closer to his family. The house had an old charm to it, dark wooden floors that creaked with every step, the smell of aged wood, and a large master bedroom upstairs that seemed to welcome new memories. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I could already picture myself making it my home. I spent the next few months fixing it up, painting the walls, replacing fixtures, and making small improvements that would transform the house into a cozy sanctuary. By mid-August, I'd accumulated a lot of random things I no longer needed. Old furniture, dishes, and even a few tools I'd never used. I decided it was time to hold a yard sale to get rid of everything. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to clear out the clutter and maybe meet some of the neighbors. Little did I know, this small, mundane decision would lead me into something far beyond anything I could have imagined. The morning of the yard sale was bright and sunny, but the heat was already setting in by 9 a.m. I arranged the tables along the driveway, stacked boxes full of random items, and placed a few larger things, chairs, lamps, by the sidewalk. Business was steady, and I had a few neighbors stop by, chatting casually as they browsed through my offerings. I made a few sales here and there, and everything felt normal. But then, at around 11 a.m., something odd happened. I noticed an older woman slowly walking toward me from down the street. She wore a faded floral dress, her gray hair neatly pinned back in a bun. I didn't recognize her, but then again, the town was small, and it was easy to spot strangers. She didn't seem interested in the items for sale. Instead, she came straight to me, her eyes fixated on the house behind me. "You live here now?" she asked, her voice soft but raspy. I nodded, a little thrown off by her directness. "Yeah, I moved in a few months ago." She nodded slowly, still staring at the house. "I used to babysit the kids who lived here a long time ago," she said, her voice trailing off as though she were lost in thought. Then, her eyes locked onto mine with a gaze so intense that it sent a shiver down my spine. "You should really check under the floorboards in the master bedroom. Not everything was found." Before I could respond, she turned and began walking away, as if the conversation was over. I called out to her, but she didn't even glance back. Within moments, she was gone, leaving me standing in the hot sun, confused and unsettled. I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just an odd interaction with a neighbor, but her words stayed with me. Not everything was found. What did she mean by that? What was she trying to tell me? As the yard sale continued, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. There was something about the woman, something about her words that bothered me. That evening, after everyone had left and I'd cleaned up, I found myself thinking about her again. The house had felt like home to me, but her cryptic statement planted a seed of unease in my mind. I couldn't resist any longer. I went upstairs to the master bedroom, determined to find out if there was something to her warning. I started tapping on the floor, listening for any areas that sounded hollow. When I reached the closet, I noticed the floorboards there sounded different, like they were hollow beneath the surface. My heart raced as I knelt down and gently pressed against one of the boards. It lifted slightly, just enough for me to get my fingers underneath. My pulse quickened as I slowly pried the board up, revealing what was hidden beneath. Underneath was a small bundle wrapped in dark cloth, covered in dust and insulation fibers. I hesitated for a moment, my fingers trembling slightly, but curiosity got the better of me. I carefully lifted the bundle out. It was heavier than I expected. As I unfolded the cloth, my blood ran cold. Inside, there were small bones, unmistakably bones, though they weren't human. My stomach turned. Who would hide bones beneath the floorboards? My mind raced with unsettling thoughts, each one darker than the last. Without wasting any time, I grabbed my phone and called the police. Within a half an hour, 2 police officers arrived and carefully examined the bundle of bones. They took photographs, bagged the items, and searched further beneath the floorboards, but found nothing else. They asked me questions like whether I had ever met the previous owner, Alan Foster, or if I had any history with the house. But I had no answers. The officers confirmed that the bones weren't human. They belonged to an animal, likely a small dog or cat, and were quite old, at least 30 years old, maybe longer. The police assured me that while it was strange, it wasn't criminal. There wasn't much else they could do. But for me, it didn't sit right. Something about the whole situation felt off, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. I called Alan Foster to ask if he knew anything, but his response only left me more unsettled. He seemed genuinely confused, even a little unsettled by the question. He told me he had no idea about the bones or the floorboards and ended the conversation quickly. That only deepened the mystery for me. I couldn't let it go. I began researching the town's records, looking into the history of the house and its previous owners. But as I dug deeper, I found nothing unusual, just the usual sales and moves. No indication of anything out of the ordinary. Despite my efforts, the questions kept piling up. The woman's warning echoed in my mind. Not everything was found. What did she know? Why had she warned me? I never saw her again. No one in town seemed to recognize her, and she remained a complete mystery. As the months passed, the mystery of the bones haunted me. Why would someone hide animal bones under the floorboards? What was the woman trying to tell me? And what else could be hidden in the house? Almost a year later, I still couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to discover beneath the floorboards, in the shadows of this old house. Her words stayed with me. Not everything was found. What if the bones weren't the end of it? What if there was something else still hidden? Something far darker? My curiosity gnawed at me, but I never got the answers I was looking for. And now, the only thing I can do is wonder, what else is hidden under the floorboards waiting to be found?